Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, maybe poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how awesome it is to desert race in an Ultra 4 rig, then this is the podcast for you. What's up, everybody? I am Jimmy Jett, and welcome to episode 532. That is a crazy number, and thank you, everyone, for the continued support so we could be wild and crazy and get to these wild and crazy numbers. I was not present for today's episode. I was off gallivanting and having fun over in Tennessee, which we'll probably talk about on Thursday's episode. But while I was gone, Tyler was able to sit down with some Justins and record a podcast for you. It's a super long episode, so I'm going to do some very quick housekeeping, and then we'll just jump right into it. First housekeeping item is our monthly giveaway. If you want to get in for our monthly giveaways, go over to iRate4x4 and log in and then sign up under that watch, listen, and discuss section. This month, we are giving away pretty much your selection of gear wrench tools. We're going to, I don't know if we were going to let the MFers choose something, or we were going to make some boxes or just some random packages and let you choose your own tools. We'll figure all that out whenever that time comes about. But you're going to have your choice of some tools, and they'll be definitely over $100 of value. You probably be pushing $200 of value, somewhere in that range. We'll give you 2 or 3 like kits worth of stuff. And let's see, moving on, we always have reviews on Apple Podcasts. So if you want to leave us a review over there, that would be very beneficial. That is probably one of the ways that you can absolutely help the podcast. The best way to actually help the podcast is to share it with a friend. Just tell somebody like, hey, you listen to podcasts? Yeah, you do. Make sure to check out the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast, the best off-roading podcast out there. And then we'll just get more ear holes hitting the podcast. So that's pretty rad. But if you do leave a review on Apple Podcast, then once we reach 750 reviews, we're going to be giving away a set of Yokohama tires. Almost anything that Yokohama makes is up for grabs. They just have to be smaller than a 20-inch rim and DOT approved compounds. And that comes for a lucky winner once we reach 750 reviews. We also have swag pack giveaways that happen every single 50 reviews. So we just had our 650th review happen. So we're coming up here in probably a little while. We're going to hit that 700th review. We'll give away a swag pack with some swag from Snail Trail 4x4, Snail Armor, Morphlate, and then we have an elite membership from Onyx Off-Road that is up for the grabs for that as well. So go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, and hopefully you guys win something. Let's see, the last little bit I think I'm just going to talk about before we jump into the episode is our phone number. Area code 916-345-4744. Call in, leave us a voice message, and your message will be played on our snail mail episodes that have been happening on Fridays. They're a lot of fun. Tyler and I have a good time listening and laughing along with you guys. And they're super random, which is one of the things we really enjoy because we're so stuck into like, what do we need to talk about off-road wise? But when you guys call in and give us a complete derail, it's really fun to hear what comes out of mine and Tyler's mouths. And it's always a random and fun time. So give us a call, get onto that snail mail episode. And once again, that phone number is area code 916-345-4744. But don't worry, you don't have to remember it because it's down in the show notes if you ever want to grab it. One last little bit of information, maybe a small shout out to our sister podcast, The Wheeling Wine and Whiskey Gentlemen. They actually had Justin and Ozzy on before their race. So like a pre-race podcast. So if you want to listen to their episode, that is episode 272, Racing Vegas to Reno with Justin Wicks. check that out because it's a lot of information about what they had going into the race. And then our podcast covers what happened during the race and afterwards. So it's kind of a fun little, I don't even want to say collaboration, just a random circumstance that happened. But it's pretty rad that it worked out this way. That said, let's stop this random conversation here happening on my one-sided end of things, and let's jump over to a fun conversation that Tyler was able to capture of our good friends, the Justins. We've got Justin Wicks and Justin, our Aussie friend from down under, joining us on the podcast today. Tyler was able to talk to them about their Vegas to Reno race with the Wicks family racing. So buckle up, grab your favorite drinks, grab your favorite snacks, and I hope you guys enjoy this campfire discussion.
The Four Wheel Underground website just got an upgrade. Come on by and check out the new functionality, new photos, and new pricing. Finally works on mobile too. Visit fourwheelunderground.com and find your new suspension today.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentleladies, all the boys, kiddos, all the coffee drinkers, all the whiskey drinkers, and of course, our favorite White Claw listeners. We are back today with a really fun interview. We have two, how would you say it down under, blokes?
Yeah, good blokes.
Two good blokes here that are going to be talking about something interesting and fun they did, which is actually really cool because there's a really neat ending to what happened here. And so we have, let's see, on the line, we've got Justin Wicks, race car driver extraordinaire. And we have another Justin, which this is going to get really confusing. There's too many Justins in this world. You guys need to fix this and figure that out.
Well, that's why you called me by a different name.
Call you cunt. That's Australian for a bloke, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry.
It's a term of endearment.
Yeah, exactly. Now we got Ozzy here on the line and Justin Wicks. How the hell are you guys doing?
Doing good. Thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Take time off work. Thank you, Tyler, for letting me take time off work to do this.
Yeah, sure. You must have a really great boss.
I know. He's a good cunt.
Oh, man. So, yeah, you guys got to do something fun recently. But before we get into that, man, when was the last time we had you on, Justin? Was it leading up to your first hammers or was it right after your first hammers?
I think it was leading up to my first hammers.
Mm-hmm.
That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was. So going from, I remember talking to you and your dad over up there in, what was that state? Nevada? Something like that. So I remember sitting down talking, and you seemed pretty, I don't want to say gun shy, but it wasn't nervous for the race. It just seemed like you were like ultra focused as you were getting ready for your first hammers driving. How has that changed for you now over the past couple of years?
Oh man, now it's all I ever want to do. It's all I can think about is the next race. And yeah, pretty much everything I do on my free time is just focused on how to make the car better and how to be faster in the next one.
Nice. So how old are you again? You're pretty young for a race car driver, right?
I'm 22 now.
So that means that in the time that you've been racing and kind of now you've been doing a lot more work on the car yourself as well. What kind of stuff, like how has that transition been going from kind of just being just kind of the driver being involved with the program to now being like one of the lead mechanics on the car as well? And really truly, how is that translating from how you're driving to preserving the car, to working on the car, to upgrading the car? How do you put that full package together?
I'm from a rock crawler background, so I'm used to working on rock crawlers a lot, and it's a lot lower heat, a lot lower speeds, not as abusive. So I'm still learning a lot for the race car and how to make it last and how to prep it correctly. Mm-hmm. But every race we're finding new things. We're making the car better. And, yeah, it's a lot of fun. My dad's he's making me do just about most of the prep work since I'm driving the car, and he's just doing all the behind the scenes stuff. He focuses on all the logistics and all the stuff that I really don't like to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes me think more in the car, knowing that I touched just about every bolt and I know where everything is in the car, and I know what's right, what's wrong. I know what the car should feel like, what it shouldn't feel like, what noises are new, what new noises could be. So it's a lot of fun doing most of the prep work on the car and getting to drive it.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, because you look at a lot of like big race teams, not necessarily in the Ultra 4 world, but other worlds too, like Funny Cars, Moto World, whatever it is. They have a paid racing team driver, right, that never really works on the vehicle that they're driving. They give input to the mechanics and the team, and the mechanic tries to translate what the driver wants to how the vehicle is behaving, right? How do you think that there's a more of a benefit to being kind of the main person working on the vehicle, so that you understand how everything is, and you're like, no, that gives me more confidence because I know that one bolt was checked, I know that was torqued properly? Or do you think that there's kind of this ignorance is bliss thing with drivers, and maybe not knowing how the car was put together and having to trust a team?
I think the ignorance as bliss part is pretty big.
Okay.
Because working on the car definitely gives me more mechanical sympathy for the car, and not wanting to work on the parts I break and try and fix the parts I break. So it definitely, in my head, it makes me want to drive easier on the car, I guess. Whereas like paid drivers that have their own mechanics, they're kind of more just foot to the floor. If it breaks, it breaks, and they don't have to deal with it. But
sounds like somebody else I know over here. Yeah. Ozzy.
I just don't have the checkbook to fix it.
Yeah, right. It's okay. You have a Dave though.
Yeah.
So.
Everyone needs a Dave.
Everyone needs a Dave. Shout out to Dave Pfeiffer if he's listening. I think he listens to the show. So, okay. That's cool. Yeah. I've always wondered that too. I'm like, cause I feel like if I was racing and driving, I'd be like, I want to be working on the car, because I want to know that steering knuckle, the ball joint or whatever, was tucked in perfectly. I want to know that the drive shaft bolts were torqued the correct way. I want to know all this stuff. My spindle nuts are incorrectly, or whatever is going on. I'm like, I just don't have a trust for people working on my vehicles, I guess. So, but that also would lead me to like, would I drive it harder or would I drive it easier? Because I don't want to work on it at the end of the day as well. So that's an interesting internal struggle, I feel like Ultra 4 racers end up having.
I think there's a level of fuck it there that comes in somewhere.
The fuck it bucket.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just,
it's a future Justin problem.
Yeah. Soon Justin's going to be like, I don't really care about fixing stuff, so I'll just drive it to hell anyways.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to that level.
I'm curious. I know this may be a sore subject, but have you been able to work on the fire suppression systems in the car?
We haven't been able to get a fire suppression system in the car. I really want one, but we just went from a 2.5 pound extinguisher to a 5 pound extinguisher just in case. But that's all we got going on right now.
Do you want to
explain? A lot of heat wrap and exhaust wrap on the fresh rebuild.
Oh, we have a funny story about that.
We do have a funny story to get to. Well, I'm curious because I don't know how many of the listeners really follow. I know we have definitely our Ultra 4 fan base of listeners, but I would imagine we have quite a few listeners that also don't really follow Ultra 4 a ton. What has kind of been your experience the last couple of years out at Hammers with the car and how the races went?
The races went pretty well. The first year we were doing really good. We ended up like getting up into 5th position overall by the start of the 3rd lap. Ended up losing 2 alternators on the 3rd lap and tried running on the jump box, and then our jump box died before we can make it to the pit. And so that was the end of that race. But everything else went really well, felt really good in the car. There wasn't a lot of negatives in that race. And then the year after, I guess that would be 2023. The race was going pretty good again. We made it up close to, we were right around like 15th by the time we got to Chocolate Thunder, and there was a lot of broken cars, and tried going for a stupid pass on some broken cars and flopped the car on its side, drained all the fluids out. So that set us way back. But that was still that was our first finish, and so that was really cool. We finished 21st, but
that's still pretty
first
good.
finish, so I was happy with it.
21st out of how many cars typically start the 4,400?
Close to 100, somewhere right around there.
Yeah. So you're in the top 20% roughly. That's pretty good. All right. So then what happened this year in 2024?
So this year we had a brand new car, and it was super stressful getting it ready. We didn't have the car back from wiring until 3 days before we were supposed to leave for the lake bed.
I was gonna say, you guys had a really short time frame this year of getting the car together.
Yeah, well, I was hoping to race King of the Motos this past year again, and we weren't able to make it down, so we didn't even have the car by the time King of the Motos was going on. So, we got the car back, total thrash, and had some transmission mishap, and ended up having to swap the transmission once we got down to the lake bed before we even got to drive the car. And so this past year, we showed up to the lake bed with no running vehicles, and so that was very stressful. And so all week long, he was just working on the car, and the car felt great. We had a fresh motor in it from Maruzzi. It rips. Yeah, car was working great all week, and then right when we started the race, we had another transmission line break off.
Oof.
And lost all the tranny fluid. There was a small flame, but I knew what was going on from the previous fire before it even happened to know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time the first flame popped up, I already had an extinguisher out and ready and didn't take much damage on that one. So didn't have to replace anything on the car besides the transmission lines.
That's nice.
But yeah, our race ended this past year at race mile 11.
Oof.
So not a good year, but
yeah. What happened with the first fire then?
The first fire was another transmission line that broke, the same line. And the first time it happened, we were going about 70 miles an hour, and it was just a bunch of smoke in our face, and then the whole cab was engulfed in flames.
Oh my God.
While we were at 70 miles an hour. And so by the time we got the car stopped and out of the car, everything was pretty burnt up and destroyed.
Hence the rebuild.
Yeah, that's where the rebuild came in.
Jeez. Wow. So you mentioned King of the Motos too. So I think it's a really unique personality, maybe mental disorder that you have. Cause I already think that Ultra 4 racers have mental disorders. I think you guys have a lot of loose bolts up in your head. But you have an exceptionally lot of loose bolts up in your head, because not only are you racing 4,400 for King of the Hammers, but you're also the weekend prior, you're racing, or the week prior, you're racing King of the Motos. 2 weeks prior, I guess, with the trophy trucks now. How does that, I mean, how do you recover? Is there a big recovery for you? Like King of the Motos, their goal when setting up that course is so that nobody finishes. Their goal in setting up the course is to make it so nobody can finish. And it's really a challenge on you guys as the riders to even try and finish the course. So how is King of the Motos? How is that experience? And B, are you just wiped and tired? How's your recovery to get ready for King of the Hammers?
Leading up to King of the Motos and really all year long, I just try and stay in the gym as much as possible, stay fit. That really helps out the most with recovery. But when I race King of the Motos, I mean, I'll backtrack a little bit because I do a few other races in the U.S. Hard Enduro Series. And no shots at Justin, who designs the course, but King of the Motos probably is one of the chillest races of the U.S. Hard Enduro Series.
Ooh, shots fired.
It's a lot of just nonstop boulder fields, like not a lot of really big obstacles. And so it was just a lot of just staying smooth. The fitness was the biggest thing in that race because it was probably one of the longer races of the U.S. Hard Enduro Series.
Okay.
And one of the hottest too. Yeah, I just kept plugging away on it and eventually got to the finish. So it was cool finishing King of the Motos, first time trying it. And then, yeah, like after King of the Motos, I ended up hopping in the car with Woody too to co-drive for 4800 the day before 4400. And so, yeah, that year was a lot, but it was fun.
Do you feel like you gain a lot of extra, I don't know, quote unquote pre-running by doing the extra races? Like, is the value you gain in hopping in other cars and doing King of the Motos, does that help you for 4400? Or is it just like, no, fuck it, I'm here, I love doing this, I'm just going to do it and deal with the consequences later?
It's kind of like, yeah, more deal with the consequences later. We wheel down there so much and hit all the trails so many times while we're down there. Like, we all know the trails but like the back of our hands, so we can do pretty good on them without pre-running, I'd say, just because we do them so often.
Mm-hmm.
But pre-running in the desert with Woody was definitely a huge help for the 4400 race.
Okay. What kind of things did you garner from doing that?
A lot of option lines and where all the nasty G outs were, and a lot of the transition roads between the trails, because they change those up every year. So that was a big part too.
Okay. So it's not necessarily maybe high speed desert techniques, because I know you like we talked about, you come from a rock crawling background. You have a pretty sweet first gen 4Runner that is now kind of becoming a tabletop in the garage. So, but you know, how does that transition to learning rock crawling versus high speed desert for you?
It's definitely tough. Learning the desert has been a challenge for sure, but coming from a bike background, I think that helps out more than anything. So before I got into the hard enduro stuff, I used to do a lot of local desert races on the bike. And so just the terrain reading skills from the bike really transfers over to the Ultra 4 stuff.
That makes sense. I assume that you have to have quite a bit faster reaction times too on a bike, because the consequence is a lot more dire than necessarily in a caged vehicle. But do you find that translates really well too for your reaction times, or?
Yeah, I think so. And just being able to, like, on a bike, you're just forced to look way ahead. And that's something that, like, when I first got in the 4400 car, I'd struggled with that. I wouldn't look far enough ahead, but now I'm starting to get better at it, learning how to drive faster in the desert.
Nice. Have you ever thought about doing the Baja 1000 on a bike on two wheels?
I think it'd be badass. It's definitely a dream of mine.
There's something wrong with you. There was a dude, I was down at the Baja, God, was it 4 years ago? 5 years ago? It was the year that it like really rained a lot, and there was a lot of mud everywhere, and they had to push back the start time. It was like the first time they'd ever done that. And there was a guy that did, it was a short year, so 500 miles, but he did all 500 miles by himself, did not swap out riders or anything, on two wheels. And I was just like, what, how do you, no, that's, there's definitely people with mental issues doing that.
Well, you got the guy this year that just bought a bike.
Oh, that's right.
Down,
that guy,
no
Jesus
crew,
Christ. Yeah.
And finished the 1000.
Yeah. That's crazy. So when is that coming up? When are we looking for you to do that, Justin?
I don't know. That stuff still scares me, like, especially after Vegas to Reno and catching up to the bikes towards the end. Those guys are a different animal, being able to deal with 1,000 horsepower trucks coming up on them at 100 miles an hour. It seems terrifying.
Oh yeah. I mean, I heard a couple stories of some 1,000 horsepower trucks coming up on you guys in the 4400 car. We'll get into that in a little bit. So man, yeah, that's really cool. So you've been kind of transitioning, learning a little bit more about the car, honing your skills as a driver, honing your skills as a mechanic, and kind of putting this all together to be this complete package. And so do you pretty much foresee yourself doing this long term, or like are you like, man, when I'm 40, I want to still be doing race car driver stuff?
Oh yeah, I want to do this for as long as I possibly can.
That's funny. All right. So you're starting to dip your toes into some different races now. You've been doing King of the Hammers. You're very familiar with Johnson Valley, King of the Hammers, rock crawling. And now we're looking at kind of a bigger scope of racing circuits, right? And you're getting out to more and more races. And you guys had the opportunity to go out and do Vegas to Reno recently. What was the decision there? Because Vegas to Reno is there's no rock crawling, right? It's all 100% open desert. You're just traveling open desert high speeds in this utility. I don't want to say Swiss Army knife of a vehicle, the Bomber 4400 car. What made you guys decide to step into that ring and be on course with these trophy trucks going out there?
So we've always kind of like wanted to try it, but once Ultra 4 added it to their schedule, we were thinking more about it. And then Maxis called us and said they didn't have any 4400 drivers in the race and they wanted us to enter it. And so that was kind of the deciding factor. We're like, all right, yeah, we'll do it. We'll try it. Let's see what we can do. And so just started prepping and got a crew together. We had a really awesome crew this year. And made it happen.
Is your crew just kind of like a smorgasbord of random people that are put together that are your buddies, or what do you mean by you have an awesome crew this year?
Just a bunch of buddies went out. We had Chip, Angela, Brad, and Scott from Rufus Racing.
Okay.
Chip ended up hopping in the car for a leg, and Chip and Brad hopped in the car for a leg, and Scott hopped in with me for the last of the race. We had a couple of my buddies, Caden and Cody. They were helping with fueling. Caden's dad, Alan, he went out which was awesome for us. He volunteered to go out to the Rawhide pit, which was way out there, and nobody wanted to do it, and he volunteered to do it, and so that was really awesome. Lance and Greg, they're always helping us out. They're pretty awesome. And then just a couple other guys that tagged along the way, and we had a lot of people, and they were all really good mechanics.
Yeah, we had Chris Hickman and his daughter come out.
Okay.
Chris Hickman actually owns Paul Wolf's race car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was fun. There's a lot of fun stories there, and his daughter, she was taking a lot of photos for us. That was great. And we had.
You say he owns Paul Wolf's race car?
Yeah.
Is it one of Paul Wolf's old race cars, or is
no? It's a rental program.
It's a rental. Okay.
No, he's great man, Chris. But and then we had Miles chasing us as well. Doing
the announcer, KOH announcer.
Yeah, Miles from KOH.
That's cool.
He was out with us, giving live updates with us at the pits and letting everyone know what was going on with Wicks Family Racing and Rufus.
So he was there specifically for you guys and your team, or was he there like covering the event and you guys were just one of the people he was like, oh yeah, we'll check in with the Wicks family as well?
Yeah, he was there for the event, but he needed to find a chase truck to follow along with the race. And so he hit up Chip with Rufus Racing and asked if he knew anybody. And Chip was like, yeah, hop in with us. So Miles was with us at every single pit along the way to the finish.
Nice. So this is interesting because I'm not super familiar with high-speed desert stuff, desert racing. I'm more familiar with, what we do at King of the Hammers, rock crawling, some of the Ultra 4 races, like Prairie City, etc. How does chasing work out? Like, does it typically work out where you have one pit crew that just goes from pit to pit to pit to pit? Or are you guys spread out? Because, at King of the Hammers, we typically try and send, a group of people out to each pit and they just sit around all day and wait for the car to come through. So they're 10 hours or whatever for 10 minutes of work. How does the logistics work of getting a pit crew chasing through the desert?
Yeah, so we had 4 trucks total, I believe. We started out with trucks in multiple spots because right off the start, the first pit was at race mile. What was it at, Aussie 29?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like...
Yeah, first pit was at 29. So there's no way they could have been at the start with us and made it to the pit in time.
Okay.
So they went straight out to the pit, waited for us to get there. And then they ended up tying back in with the rest of the crew. And for the rest of the race, all the trucks just stayed together and went to all the same pits and were able to beat the car there. Barely at one of the pits, but
yeah,
made it.
That was a little touch and go there.
Touch and go. Wow. Okay. So there's multiple legs of the race, Vegas to Reno. How many miles is Vegas to Reno in total?
This year it was 555 miles.
Wow. That's a lot. And so the driver is typically not the same driver all 555 miles. So you guys are swapping out drivers, swapping out co-drivers. So how much did you get to do? Which legs were you in, and which parts did you have Ozzy in the car? And then how quickly before you were like, dude, I can't understand you on a microphone, right? Because you don't speak English. Get out of the car. Give me somebody else.
Yeah. So I drove the first 209 miles.
Wow.
And then Chip hopped in for 160 miles, and I hopped in for the last leg of the race. And Ozzy was in with me for the first 209 miles. And that was I would assume that was probably a really rough experience for Ozzy, because our GPS was like, just not facing straight. It was just kind of doing whatever it wanted to. So Ozzy was trying to read it upside down.
I was trying to work out my lefts from rights. I was like, I was driving down under.
That's just a normal driving for him, and figured that out.
It took a lot of mental capacity to try to figure out left from right when the map's going down, because the GPS had a glitch and it wouldn't track up.
Oh, geez.
I tried everything except turning it on and off again, which is what I should have done.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't just try and like take it off and flip it over upside down.
I was bloody tempted to. But yeah, that took a lot of my mental capacity at the 100-mile mark, and I was just like, oh, this is freaking ridiculous. But then we found a groove. We got it back on track and started making it work. So I think he understood most of the words I was saying. I was using sign language too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
that's pretty universal. So that helps.
Yeah, he got really good at that in qualifying, because we didn't have comms in qualifying. So
yeah,
he was just using hand signals the whole time, yelling at me where to go.
I felt like a jet boat navigator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Qualifying was pretty interesting.
How did qualifying go for everything?
Qualifying, Ozzy has a pretty good story about this, but qualifying did go pretty well. We ended up qualifying 5th in class, or actually we were 5th in class, and then some things happened with time because a car broke on course. So they credited back time to a bunch of the other drivers and bumped us back to 9th place or 8th place. And, but yeah, we had a really good car for qualifying. So it was super tight, super technical. The 4-wheel drive really helped. It was all deep sand. And so a lot of the 6100 trucks, they just couldn't keep their speed through the course, which led us to starting in front of a lot of these purpose-built desert trucks, which kind of bit us hard once the race started. But
literally and physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally and physically.
Well, for qualifying, it was the first time Justin actually really gotten in the car since both fires. So for qualifying, they gave us a sighting lap to go on. So we get off the start line.
What's a sighting lap versus a qualifying lap?
It's a blind course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we have no idea. We have no map. So I'm tracking the qualifying lap to figure out where everything is. It's almost like a pre-run.
Okay.
So yeah, we get off the line, and Justin's a lot of nerves because he hasn't really beaten on the car since it caught fire.
Okay.
So a lot of like
not a whole lot of pushing the car and pushing the engine, pushing the transmission, and so you're worried about that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like leading into qualifying, I had zero confidence in the car.
Oh, no.
The whole time I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to catch on fire again. But
with that,
were you going to be out there pulling a Ricky Bobby or something?
Oh man.
Yeah. So we come in the first corner nice and hot. Like first you're saying the car's not feeling right. Mind you, we're like 2 foot of sand.
Okay.
So, it's like, it's not going as fast as it should. Like, yeah, we're going through 2 foot of sand. It's not desert. So, the first hard right-hand corner, he buries the front passenger tire into the silt. And the silt pushes all the dust up through the vent in the dash. And to Justin, it looks like smoke.
Oh.
So
okay.
He pulls over instantly and it's like, we're on fire. I'm like, no, we're not on fire. It's like, I can see smoke. I'm like, no, we don't see smoke. So we pulled off, let him regather his thoughts. And then he was about to go, and so 100% Ricky Bobby. This was great. And then
you didn't pull the fire suit off and run around naked out there with your helmet on.
I didn't get to that point. Didn't get that far.
But then we had, is there another car coming? And then all of a sudden a T1 car just goes straight past. He goes, what was that? And I'm like, that was them. Let's go. So, we were straight out of Talladega Nights. But it was a blessing in disguise, because that was, it was good for Justin just to get that out of his system, I think. He just, because after that, he just drove like the wind. It was awesome. He had a lot more confidence in the car after that. Just
okay. We're actually not on fire. I can push it this hard and we're not going to catch on fire. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, that was a fun. At the moment, wasn't that funny, but now I think it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I heard rumor there might be some memes being started that.
He did dress as Ricky Bobby for one Halloween. His mom was showing.
I did, yeah.
In his underwear.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I wore like skin tone long johns, and then just put underwear on over it. And me and my dad painted a helmet to look just like the Wonder Bread Ricky Bobby helmet.
That's amazing.
And the school ended up making me put on some shorts over it because it looked too good.
And now it's come full circle.
That's funny. That's great.
Yeah, I want a little cut out of that and put it on his dash.
Yeah. I'm on fire. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. That's funny. All right. So how did you finish qualifying from there pretty strong? And then so you ended up, you said 8th to 9th, right? Overall?
Yeah, we were 8th in class.
Got it.
And overall we were 38th.
Yeah.
Okay. What other, who else was out there from the 4,400 cars?
There was both Gomez's, Lauren Healy's old IFS IRS car. I can't remember the driver's name. Another bomber, and Tad Dowker was out there. And who else was out there, Ozzy?
Bailey.
Oh, yeah, Bailey Campbell was out there.
There was a few. There was 10 4,400 cars in total.
Okay. Those are some big names, though, and some big race programs to be up against for a big race like this, especially considering, the Gomez's that have awesome cars for desert, an IFS IRS car, which would be in theory great for desert, versus a bomber, which a bomber is a solid axle vehicle, which does amazing in rocks. They'll beat the pants off of anybody in the rocks. But how does that translate running a bomber in a 555-mile desert race?
It was rough. It definitely was not the best car for the job. And another issue we were having during the race is the car was too narrow to fit in all the T1 ruts. And so the entire time the car was just swapping in and out of the ruts. Like the road would be straight for miles, and the car just would not go straight at all.
It's like
and so the whole time we were just fighting, but
driving up Highway 80 and Donner in the truck lane,
pretty much.
Yeah,
flying in and out of the ruts of the trucks, man. That would kind of suck if you have a 50-mile stretch of just straight, and you're like, I could do 120, but I can't because the car won't stay straight going in the ruts.
Yeah, and the starting of the race too is very silty. I don't know. For me, I've driven in silt, but not being able to see the hand in front of my face kind of silt. It was a little bit scary.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because this is one of the parts that really freaks me out and why I will never race high-speed vehicles is the vision in the desert when you're behind somebody, or if there's just that kind of lunar dust that just sits there in the air and you have no vision, but you need to keep going 70 to 80 miles an hour. At what point are you worrying about turning into a Gomez and completely destroying the rear end of somebody versus how do you know when it's safe to keep going 70 to 80 miles an hour with 1 foot of visibility barely?
Yeah, so the scariest part for me about it is you can't see anything in front of you. So the whole time, Ozzy's just telling me all right, you're on course, you're on course, you're on course. And time when it happened worse is we were on a power line road.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's power poles all the way down this road, and we can't see them. And we can't even see where the road's at. And the whole time you're also thinking, okay, well, there's T1 trucks coming up on us. So you don't want to slow down, because then you're just going to get punted by a T1 truck.
Because you guys are doing what, 70 to 80 average in those sections, but they're doing 100 to 150. They're almost you're clocking pretty damn good, but they can go double that. I mean, how do you manage all that too?
Yeah, it's pretty scary, to be honest. Gets the adrenaline going for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those guys are a different breed. Like off the line, we had a couple of T1 cars behind us, 61 and a trick truck, and we got to push the pass in a very silty area, and I hit the button, and he must have been right on our backside.
Really?
Yeah, they're just literally driving in our dust, because as soon as I acknowledged the push to pass, we got a little punt. And then, so we pulled over safely, let him pass. And just as I didn't realize there was two behind us, he passed, we pulled out and nearly got sideswiped by the second truck that was right on his backside as well.
Holy crap.
And they just driving in each other's dust. It was nuts. Like, I don't know how these guys do it. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, if you think about it, you're clocking a pretty good speed, but yet you're still the trail tampon for in terms of rock crawling terms here for these guys that are just right on you. And they're like, get the hell out of here, you stupid 4,400 car.
I feel like they just look for the thickest piece of dust and just go for that one.
And just stick in that until you hit a car or something. Like, what do you,
who knows? Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. You did mention you were talking something about an infrared system.
Yeah. So I think, Josh, I think you were telling me that those T1 guys, they run infrared cameras in like the big boy classes. So when they're in real dust, they just see the shrubs on the side, and that's how they navigate through the really thick dust. And
really,
yeah, there's actually a few companies out that do make infrared cameras. Like even Baja has an infrared light.
Really?
Cameras. Yeah.
So is it? I mean, interesting. I've never tried to look at infrared through a dust storm before. Does it see through the dust pretty well, or is it just barely picking up the bushes on the outsides of the dust?
I wouldn't be able to answer that one.
There was one Vora race. There's one of the Vora recovery vehicles. It's a Jeep Wrangler, and it has the system in the Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were driving through dust on the course, and you could see everything. It was insane.
Interesting. So maybe that's the next upgrade for the Bora car here, if you guys are going to keep doing more desert stuff.
Yeah, it'd definitely be super sweet to have. I don't know how much they are, but
it's kind of
something to look into.
Yeah.
Even for night driving.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fine at nighttime. You don't need rock lights or anything, huh? You just have your infrared system and go on a night crawling or night ride.
Just straight blind. Yeah.
Oh man, that would be fun. It gives a new meaning whenever somebody's around and somebody starts going night run. Justin's like, I'm in. Well, okay. So God, I don't know. I still can't do that. I got to go down to Baja, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, and just kind of putz around in my rock crawler and try and pretend that I can do any whoops more than 5 miles an hour, which was not a thing. So even then, it's just, you can't see anything. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm doing 5 to 10 miles an hour, can't see shit. And I'm like, I'm just going to stop and wait here for the dust to clear out. You guys are running down this course doing 70 to 80, getting punted by T100 trucks behind you I just can't, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm sorry.
I mean, at the time, it was just all part and parcel of it. Like, it's nervous, but that's part of the race. Just keep going. Like, you don't have time to worry about it. Just, okay, get out of the dust and keep going. We're on course, Justin. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So you did 209 miles with an Australian in your wrong seat there. How did that 209 miles go other than getting punted? Did it all go pretty smooth? Was there any issues with the car that you guys had to solve? How was that first leg?
Right away, the transmission wasn't cooperating as much as we wanted it to. I think it was a mix of, we think there could have been an air bubble in the system somewhere. And so the transmission would slip in a few gears, and mainly in fourth gear and third gear. And so that really limited us on speed. And I don't think the heat helped out at all either. It was over 100 degrees when we started the race. And our trans temp was consistent.
Just your ambient temperature, the air temperature was over 100?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so our trans temp was chilling right around 220 for probably over 300 miles until we started getting into the higher elevation and it started cooling off out. But so we had some trans problem. I guess I wouldn't say problems. It was there's an air bubble in the system. And so when we started the race, the trans appeared full on ATF. And once it started slipping really bad, we pulled off and checked it again, and it was super low, and we weren't leaking anything. It wasn't puking out. And so we just added a couple quarts that we had on the car, and third gear came back alive. And so we kept on going, but that limited us to about like 80 mile an hour max.
Yeah, I was gonna say in desert stuff, third and fourth gear are very important gears for the car.
Yeah, for sure. But other than that, it went pretty smooth.
Okay. How's the new engine?
The new engine's sweet. It's got so much power. Like you could just, when you step on it, it really throws your head into the seat.
Nice.
Yeah, that motor likes to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It loves it.
What is it to just sit at red line all day long and doesn't care? How's it behaving for you?
I didn't want to test that.
Okay.
So we were just chilling at like 5-6 grand most of the day. It was staying pretty cool. There was a few times it got up close to 220, but most of the time it was just staying right around 200.
That's pretty good. Running in 100-degree temperature at 5,000 to 6,000 RPMs all day long.
I mean, it worked hard, like being soft silt and everything.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of load on the motor, just keeping everything spinning. Justin just drove it.
What's the output stats? Have you guys gotten that car dynoed yet?
The motor puts out about 750 horsepower.
Crank or to the wheels?
Crank.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so at the wheels, I'm not really sure. So it was I believe when it was first dynoed, it was on a hub dyno.
Okay. All right. That's solid for a freaking Ultra 4 car, man. That's nice. Who did the engine build? You said it was which company?
It was built by Maruzzi Race Motors.
Maruzzi Race Motors. Cool. Would you highly recommend them then? It sounds like they did a good job with the motor so far.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend them. I know a lot of other people do highly recommend them, and that's why we first went to them. And I couldn't be happier with our choice. We see a lot of cars out there having motor issues, especially in Ultra 4. And I mean, knock on wood, so far we haven't had any with the Maruzzi motor.
That's cool. What is the platform of it? Is it an LS platform or one of the Ford crate engines that they're souping up? What are they using for the block?
Yeah, we got a LSX 454 block.
Nice. That's a big boy. That'll put out some fun numbers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's super reliable being the iron block.
Yeah. I know that for a lot of the bomber cars in the 4400 classes, a lot of the idea and the concept of getting a bomber chassis to begin with is to keep your weight really light. Is there any concern of having a much heavier engine with the iron block versus getting an aluminum block style? Or are you just like, no, the dependability and the reliability of it way outweighs the weight of the engine?
Yeah, the dependability definitely outweighs the weight for us.
Okay. Well, I guess you guys haven't windowed a motor yet, right? So that's that.
No, that motor's been great ever since we got the car. It's the same motor that we got when we first got the car. So
oh, nice.
It's been solid ever since.
Okay. What are some of the other changes you guys made to the car with the rebuild?
So we started having Dave build our transmissions, and that's super awesome. He does a really good job on our transmissions. And
Dave 5
we went to
really okay.
Yeah,
the magician.
And we went to all ECU masters for all of our electrical, and that's pretty cool. It's been really solid. Simplifies the whole system. Also, on the after the second fire, we just went to all steel lines on the transmission, all crimped, high pressure hydraulic lines, and so those are really solid now. And that's about all we've changed on the car.
Okay, how does ECU Masters? How does their system work? Because I'm semi familiar with like the Holley sniper system and what Holley does with their ECU engine management stuff. Is that a similar concept to what ECU Masters is doing? How does their system work to put it all together?
So we just run just a factory GM ECU. And the ECU Masters is basically just like I don't know what you'd call it, but like a main, just like the brain for all the accessories and all the
So like your fans and cooling system, and is it dealing with transmission shift points too, or are you manual valve body for everything?
The transmission is tuned through the GM computer.
Okay.
And we're fully automatic, so we don't have to shift in the car.
Okay.
Put it in D and go.
You just have D and P. That's it.
Yep.
No R. There's no going backwards in this car. Okay. I know that you got to play around with sort of a new shock package. Was it with 2024 or was that 2023?
That was 2023. We got all new bypasses and coilovers on the car, and it made a huge difference.
Really big enough that I don't want to say would you recommend? Obviously I think you would, but like it was super noticeable and made the car more predictable. Were you able to push the car harder? What was such that big difference that they made?
Yeah, it was made the car way more predictable, way more stable, really confidence inspiring. I mean, when Randy co-drove with me in San Felipe for my very first race, we still had the old shock package on the car, and Randy's words, the car was trying to kill us with how the old shock package was. And so now with the new shock package, it's really like the faster you go, the better it is. And you can it just takes everything.
All right. Was there anything else on that first leg that was kind of fun or exciting? Any fun stories about?
I mean, there was a really nice 25 mile an hour section where you could just enjoy the view. Yeah, it's through a canyon. We got a time just to catch our breath, recoup, get our brains back in check, and have a chat. So, I mean, yeah, that first 200 miles went through pretty quick. For us, because it was just get in there, do the job, get it done, figure it out. Justin found his groove and just kept going. So, yeah, once we got past, I think it was like pit 3, we just figured it out and just kept going until pit 5 where we switched out.
Was there a big kind of I don't want to say transition period, but kind of a getting to know how each other work in the car? Because you guys haven't driven and co-driven together yet, right?
Not a lot, no. Like we definitely have a little bit of ways to go understanding what each other is thinking. But I have all the confidence, Justin. He does. I'm brave enough to say he doesn't scare me.
Okay.
I trust his driving. Like I'm like, he's not going to do anything too stupid. But I think, yeah, we're going to get more seat time together. And so we both know what we're looking at the same time, I think. So, but I feel like the communication was pretty good. A couple of guys who haven't really co-driven before. I don't know, Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, it was having Ozzy in the car was super cool. We clicked really well. Definitely some getting used to with how we communicate and what I want as a driver from him as a navigator, how I like the corners called out and dangers called out. And Ozzy picked it up pretty quick. So we're going to get out pretty soon, get more seat time in the car and get it dialed in.
Gotcha. Do you find that it's always kind of fun to me to figure out the dynamic between drivers and co-drivers, because it's a lot of times the drivers get a ton of the credit for the race, for keeping cars together, etc. But it's really the co-driver that keeps the driver together to allow him to do all that. And so like, are you having to remind him to go faster, slower, calm down, preserve the car, you push the car harder? What?
Once he found the groove, that was fine. It was just, reminding just to keep an eye on things. And, I'll let him know if I worry about the car, he worries about driving. That's
gotcha.
Yeah. So I'll let him know if it's getting too hot or whatnot. But
okay.
Sometimes I might not if he's driving really well.
Yeah. So do you guys have the gauges in the car set up so that the co-driver has the best view of them, or can you guys both see them pretty well?
We can both see, but he's concentrating on driving. I'm looking at a map and looking at gauges and looking at numbers. But I mean, Justin, for the most part, he gets in his groove. If he stays in his groove, and that's the biggest job, like one of the jobs of a co-driver is making sure the driver stays in their groove.
Gotcha.
And once he got in it, it was good. It was me keeping up with him.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, we click really well. I've known Justin for a while, so I'm not afraid to tell him, but I never really had a point to tell him
Nice.
to pull his head in or anything. He just, like I said, he found his rhythm and just kept going. And I made sure he tried to do my best to make sure he kept that rhythm.
Gotcha. All right, that's cool. How was the last leg of the race? Because you were, 555 miles is a lot to drive in a regular car on a highway. I can't imagine trying to drive that much on a race car through a desert. So obviously the drivers swap out. We've already talked about that. Chip kind of took the center leg, and then you took back over for that third leg there. How did that go? And did you guys make it across the finish line? How did all that go for the remainder of the race there?
Yeah, it went really well. So I'll backtrack a little bit. Going into the race, our goal, since we've had a kind of a losing streak lately, we haven't been having the best luck. Our goal going into this race was just finish it, give a great experience for all the pit crew, and really just use it as a boost in team morale. And we did exactly that. Everybody had a great time, and we crossed the finish line, and with pretty minimal issues.
Just a stealth fire early on, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and going into the last leg, it was still just the same plan. Just keep the car together, get it to the finish line, make sure we don't break just out in the middle of the desert, and have a big recovery mission. And once it got dark, it started getting pretty fun. I personally like driving in the dark more. The shadows just make everything stand out more, all the bumps and turns and whatnot.
That's easier to read the terrain for you in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And once we got to the last pit, my dad came up to the car and was on the radio and was like, "You guys are 5 minutes off of Bailey Campbell. You guys need to give it everything you have in this last 50 miles. And I was just like, okay, sounds good to me. And so for that last 50 miles, we were just on the edge. And we just had the car pinned the entire time. And I guess I actually kind of really scared my last co-driver. He didn't think we were going to make it.
What happened?
Just it was getting pretty Western. There was a lot of times we were looking straight at the ground, straight at the sky, a few bicycles. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And getting into that last 50 miles, there's a lot of cliff sides too on that course. And so it gets pretty spooky out there at night. Really rocky. And he really thought we were gonna have to get out and change some tires too in that last 50 miles, but all those Max tires, they look brand new, and never had to change one of those. But the last 50 miles was great.
Whole race.
You didn't have to change a single tire that whole race?
No, we didn't change any tires the entire race.
Damn.
That's impressive. They still look brand new. They're barely even chunked out.
It doesn't even look like he did a qualifying lap at Hammers.
Wow. I've always understood desert racing to be really rough on tires because you don't have time to keep your tires away from stuff. They just get abused. They hit everything because you're going so fast. You don't have the reaction times. And you didn't even have to change out a single one. No flats, no issues, no broken rims.
No, nothing. Yeah. The tires held up great. There was a few times towards the end where we hit some rocks and it was just like, oh yeah, we're going to have to hop out to change that one soon. But they were all great.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a couple of moments. It's like, I'm pretty sure we got a flat. Like, I don't think so.
Wow.
But, yeah. I'm glad we didn't because it was hot.
Yeah. And so which tires are you running from Maxxis? Which model tires are you on the car?
We're running creepy crawlers right now. The creepy crawler 40-inch stickies.
Gotcha. Yeah. Those have some beefy sidewalls. The creepy crawlers do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're not as gnarly as the Treps, but they're pretty close.
Yeah, that's cool that they are able to withstand that much abuse. That's actually really impressive to go 550 desert miles at high speed stuff and not have any tire issues. So yeah, kudos to Maxxis, I guess. That's cool that you were able to get them on board and be able to have that much confidence throughout a race.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So you just living on the edge. Your co-driver doesn't think that you're going to make it. how did the co-driver feel after you guys crossed the line? Was he like, that's worth it? Or is he like, I'm done. I'm not riding with you anymore.
I could definitely tell by looking at him. He was pretty relieved once we got the car to a stop at the finish line.
That's funny. Okay, big question. Were you able to close that 5-minute gap and get ahead of Bailey, or?
We were. So on time, we ended up finishing 5 minutes ahead of Bailey Campbell.
No shit.
We never caught her.
You made up 10 minutes?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know what the time was when they were physically 5 minutes ahead of us.
Okay.
Leaving the pits. I don't know what our time split was then. But by the time we got to the finish, we could see her taillights and all the corners and all the switchbacks, and we were really closing in. And just ran out of miles to catch her.
Physically pass her. Okay.
Yeah, to physically pass her, but we still came up 5 minutes ahead on time.
Uncorrected. Okay. So when your dad told you you're 5 minutes behind Bailey, that was physical time. That wasn't corrected time.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's still, I mean, over about 50 miles to be able to make up a 5-minute gap on a car that is an IFS car. I would argue the Campbell's cars are more purposeful and should be a better desert driver than a bomber chassis and a bomber car. So for you to be able to make up a 5-minute gap within 50 miles, I'm starting to think your co-driver may have an argument there. So that's impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were pushing really hard at the end.
Jeez.
Maxis was also having the final 48. It was the fastest car in the last 48 miles, got a couple grand. Oh. And so that was also in the back of our minds. we wanted to try and get that, but we couldn't beat JP Gomez.
Yeah, that dude, that you talk about driving lights out, balls out as often as possible. I think JP is one of the guys that's up there the most. So, but he also has a very, I think, purposeful driven car to go very fast as long as he can possibly do it. So again, for a bomber to even be competing in that against, a Gomez car or a Campbell's chassis, I think is super impressive. I think that goes a lot to show how you are as a driver in pushing that car to what it can really do.
Well, I went through our times and just because we were going for the finish, we, as Justin said, giving everyone the experience, like we wanted to make it a memorable race and make an accomplishment. So the pits weren't super rushed. We took our time, make sure everything was correct. But I mean, if we were doing Hammer's pit stops and doing that, I would safely say that we would have jumped up 2 spots
easily. You think?
Yeah, just the time lost just between driver change and the time we took in the pits, just making sure the car was okay, like taking your time. But his average speed, we would have picked up a couple of spots.
Wow. How's so what you crossed the finish line, finished the race, a goal accomplished. Everybody's probably super ecstatic because this is the first time you guys have done Vegas to Reno and you're able to do that. What was your final place there for the race?
It was 9th place.
No, 7th.
Or was it 8th place?
7th.
Oh, we ended up 7th?
7th because, Bailey was 8th and then 2 DNFs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we ended up 7th and I believe we were 39th overall.
So we started and finished at almost the same spot.
Okay. That's pretty good. That means you held, I think that's a really good, I'll say, starting point for Vegas to Reno. And now you kind of have this point of, okay, I know that we can do it where we start, we kind of finish at those roughly the same positions. So now the trick is, how do you get faster? What are things you guys can do to maybe get into the top 5 next year at the Vegas to Reno kind of stuff? Have you started thinking about that? Or are you just still kind of like, man, we got so many other races between now and then. We got, just I need to go back through the car and figure out what we did burn up, if anything. Has that crossed your mind yet?
Yeah, for sure. Our plan right now is we're going to mess with the front axle. We're going to give it some more caster. That'll help out in the straightaways and the high speed stuff.
Yep.
We also want to mess around with coolers. We want to change up our trans cooler setup, try and get more cooling out of the car.
Okay.
That way we can push harder.
Mm-hmm. Any to go to an IFS car for desert races and keep the bomber for the rock races?
That'd be a dream for sure, but I don't think that's in the near future.
Okay. All right. So you're going to change up caster. What is your caster now on the front axle?
Right now it's about 0.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that intentional, or was that just kind of how things laid out when you set up the axle?
I don't think it was intentional because we were having some issues with the driveline coming in contact with the upper link at full bump, which has never happened before. So we got to kind of dig into that, see why the axle is rotated farther forward than it usually is.
Yeah.
Because the way Randy builds the links on the bombers is he builds them so the heim joint is threaded 100% into the link and maintaining the proper position of the front axle, which they all are. So we're probably just going to have to back some threads out on the front lowers to get what we want out of it.
Gotcha. So it's just going to be a matter. You're not going to try and like cut brackets off and re-weld brackets on to maintain all the thread engagement on the heims. You're just going to back them out a little bit and see if that corrects it all.
Yep.
Okay. That's a much easier fix than trying to
For sure.
off.
That'll explain why the bomber likes to turn on a dime.
Yeah.
Zero cast, I think, pivots.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I set up my axles and I'm just a recreational crawler, but I set up mine for 6 to 8 degrees. I was trying to get to 10 of caster, and it ended up being about 6 to 7. I think 7.5 is maybe where I'm at. But it's surprising to me that a race car is set up with a 0. I feel like you guys would want around 6 to 8 at least for how fast you guys are trying to go and staying straight in ruts and stuff.
Yeah, we definitely do that. Around 7 to 8's ideal.
Okay. So, all right. So you're going to modify the caster, get a little bit more caster. Hopefully that'll help you stay straight in the T1 ruts. Any other fun things you guys have planned to try and modify with the car?
Not a whole lot. We're going to try out some Maxxis razors for the next race and see if we can gain some more horsepower with that. Because I know that the creepy crawlers are a heavier tire, and they are a really good rock tire, and that's why they work so well at hammers. But we did notice while we were down at Vegas to Reno, all the Maxxis guys were running the razors.
Then the razors are a lighter tire, obviously. Is that just mainly because they're just less material there? Because the creepy crawlers are a robust, beefy tire. So is the theory there that you're just going to go to a less robust, beefy tire in order to maybe gain some of the rolling weight back?
Exactly. They're a thinner tire too, so there's going to be less surface area.
Oh, they're not as wide. Okay. I was thinking thinner sidewall, but footprint and wide. So, okay. I know that there's a strategy for, you had mentioned it before, where the car liked to try and climb out of ruts because of how aggressive the sidewalls were on your tires. Have you kind of figured that out, or have you solved that problem? Is it a problem, or?
Yeah. So what we did to solve that issue, and this is what Chris Shaw with Maxxis recommended, and he does it for us down at Hammers every year. He takes all of our front tires and completely shaves the sidewall tread off of them, and so they don't climb out of the rut.
Oh, okay. That's clever. That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So who are some of the other companies, supporters of the program that you're like, man, without these people, we would not have been able to do Vegas to Reno. We would not have been able to come across that finish line. They're the people that we depend on the most for the program. Who are some of those that you guys depend on, and why do you depend on them?
First off is my dad. He makes all this possible. And then, we got Bora Off-Road. They really help us out at every race. If you need any wheel spacers for anything, they can make whatever you want, and they're really high quality wheel spacers.
Literally, I got my my wheel spacers and my adapters for my snow tracks from Bora, and they were great. I got them at a very busy time of year to be contacting them to have them made, so it took a little bit longer, but they turned out awesome, and they were pretty good to deal with too. So shout out to Bora on that one.
Yeah, for sure. They make some really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then Greg with High Desert Surface Prep, he's always a big help to the team. He's always at all the races, killing it in the pits. And he really helped us out with getting the new shock package on the car too in the previous years. So that wouldn't be possible without him.
Nice.
Warren Industries, they always make sure we got all the recovery gear, which thankfully this race we didn't need any.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, but hammers, we definitely use it all.
Yeah.
Vision wheels. So we're on Vision wheels now, and they're sweet. They're really strong at hammers. We hammers 2 years ago, we drove all across Fisher with 2 flat tires.
Oof.
And we're just running on the wheels, and they held up. There wasn't a scratch on them.
Nice.
Rufus Racing, they always help us out with whatever we need. They're always there to help us at all the races. And yeah, you guys at Moreflate, you guys make some sweet tire inflation systems. We use them on everything.
Yeah, got to keep your Maxxis up in proper pressure. So
yeah.
That's cool. Any other people out there to thank for helping make Vegas to Reno happen? I know you mentioned your pit crew, and that's I've helped with pit crews before, and that is, I don't want to say it's not a thankless job, because all the whole team knows all the effort that the volunteers put into pit crew and being able to offer the vehicle support while you're out there. It's a very much a kind of a volunteer, very low value you get out of it, other than getting to watch the car across the finish line. Is there other people kind of on the back end that maybe weren't a part of a pit crew that you had already thanked?
Well, it's just my family. My family really, they're huge supporters of this. They make it all possible. Yeah. So they're awesome. And I do have to give a shout out to Justin Dean Smith. Found a crack in the axle housing.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, another Justin. We found a crack in the axle housing after qualifying at Vegas to Reno, and he was nice enough to let us bring the car into his shop and use his welders, use his equipment, and fix the crack in the housing before the race.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's fun to have that support there. And it's super valuable as a race team that you guys are, I don't know, you're not high budget. You're not out here to make high dollars. You're not out here for the prize winning purses. You guys are out here for the experience and the passion of it. So being able to have people like that around you that are like, oh, fuck yeah, just come into my shop and use whatever you want. That's pretty cool to have. And that's one of the things I love about off-road racing, is that there's that mentality is everywhere. It's fun to watch and fun to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really great community.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Thanks for taking, I only planned on this being like 45 minutes. We're down here, I don't know, an hour and a half long, hour and 15 now. So thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know that you still have a day job that you got to work to pay the bills and pay for the stuff on the car. And you're working in the day job, and then your night job is working on the car pretty much. So you're a busy dude, but I love the passion. I love that you're super into it, and that you have the mental issues to be able to go out and provide this kind of entertainment, because I definitely would not be out there. And I know that a lot of people out there would not. So it's cool to run into people and see people like yourself in the off-road community, off-road industry, that are like, no, fuck yeah, let's go run King of the Motos and then 4,800 and 4,400. And let's go do 400 miles in a bomber car through the desert. It's cool to see, man.
Yeah, for sure.
From everybody out there, thank you. Thank you for having the mental disabilities to go out and do that. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, man. Any final words to kind of wrap this up? If people want to get a hold of you and watch and see what you're doing out there and follow your career as in racing programs, how would people do that? How do they find you? How would people get a hold of you if they would just want to say congratulations or good luck on your next race? How do they do that?
Yeah, so just my Instagram mainly. That's really all I'm active on. Just Justin Wicks, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Do you post the race schedule up there too for like when people can look forward to following along with the next race? Or
Yeah, once we figure out our next coming up race, which it should be beginning of October, the California 300, we'll be posting about that leading up to the race.
Okay. Is this a common theme? Are you guys going to start doing more longer desert race stuff?
Well, so the cool thing with the California 300 and what the Martelli brothers are doing, they're starting to add rock trails into all their desert races. So the California 300 is going to be in Barstow, and it's going to be kind of a hammer style course for all the 4,400 cars and 4,800 cars that show up.
Nice. Okay. That'll be a lot of fun then.
Yeah.
Gives the Ultra 4 guys something to play with.
Yeah, seriously.
Besides short course on the West Coast.
Yeah, besides Prairie City.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, cool, man. We're looking forward to seeing what you do there in October. We'll keep an eye on the Instagrams. If people have any questions for Justin or Justin, you guys can reach out to us at Jimmy or Tyler at SnailTrail4x4.com. We've got the Instagram as well. We also have our voicemail snail mail segment where you guys can call in. If you call in and leave a voicemail for Justin or Justin, I'll send that voicemail over to them, and maybe I can get a little soundbite voicemail back from them, and then you guys can go back and forth on voicemails, and Jimmy and I will just sit back and twiddle our thumbs. How's that? That number for everybody is 916-345-4744. And yeah, that's about it. So to wrap up the show, any final words for everybody out there? Let's start with Justin. Weird, funny accent, Justin.
Final words. I mean, if you want to get into off-road, just follow your passion.
Follow your passion. Yeah. I like it.
Just follow it. Just keep doing what you're doing. It'll come together. Just be part of it. Enjoy the community. That's because what we are, just one big family. And, you know, I'm super blessed to have such great friends and family in the Wicks. So, you know, always there to help them out whenever they need it.
Nice. Cool. Justin, cooler Justin. Any final words for everybody out there?
I don't got much besides, ATF fires are not fun. So make sure all your transmission lines are ready for the task.
I'm on fire.
Make sure you're wearing clean underwear.
Yeah, wear clean underwear that day. That's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to the memes. I'm looking forward to seeing what Ozzy ends up putting on your dashboard. And I guess without further ado, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Justin for coming on. And don't forget, keep crawling.
So you all know I was just traveling and I was over in Tennessee, and I'm pretty sure the hotel receptionist was checking me out.